You wake up gasping, not from a nightmare, but from a vision, a flash of light, a door opening in your mind you've never seen before. It wasn't a dream. It felt more real than anything you've touched in your waking life. You're dripping in sweat, heart pounding, but something inside you is still. It's as if you were pulled out of your body, shown something vast, something ancient, and then dropped back into this world like a visitor who forgot they were home. That was the moment the observer awoke in you. And from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. You wouldn't just live your life, you would begin to watch it. And in the watching, you would see the truth that has escaped you for lifetimes. Observation is not passive. It creates. We're going to walk together now into a mystery that even science is only just beginning to understand, and spirituality has been whispering about for thousands of years. The observer effect. Not just in physics, not just in particles and probabilities, but in your own consciousness, in your relationships, in your beliefs, in your very sense of self. You are not who you think you are, and paradoxically, the moment you truly observe this you, everything changes. The way you feel love changes. The way you experience fear changes. Even the way the world responds to you shifts. What if I told you that you've never actually seen reality, only your version of it? And what if I told you that the moment you observe differently, reality itself bends to meet your gaze? This is not philosophy. It is not poetic metaphor. This is quantum law, reflected in your psyche, your soul, and your everyday life. In the famous double-slit experiment, electrons behave one way when observed and another when not. Matter, the very stuff of existence, responds to the presence of awareness. But what they don't tell you is that this experiment is not confined to laboratories. It's happening within you, right now. Every thought you observe shifts the energy of your being. Every emotion you watch without judgment begins to dissolve. And every belief you hold unconsciously becomes your prison until you look at it. Then, in that sacred act of observation, you unlock the cell.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
So let's begin with the first shift. When we stop identifying with our thoughts and begin to observe them, we break the illusion that we are our thoughts. This is not just mindfulness, it is metaphysical revolution. Without awareness, thoughts run you. They dictate your mood, your reactions, your decisions. But the moment you observe the thought, you create space, and in that space you step out of the story. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer believe, you inquire. This is when you begin to see how much of your life has been unconscious repetition. The same loops, the same patterns, the same pain recycled endlessly because it was never seen. Are you willing to finally look? When you observe your inner world without judgment, you become the witness. And the witness is untouchable. The witness cannot be hurt, cannot be offended, cannot be afraid, because the witness is not the one experiencing these things. It is the one watching the experience unfold. And here's the miracle. The more you rest in the witness, the less control the ego has over your life. You stop being the actor lost in the role, and you become the director, the screen, the light projecting the whole scene. This is not disassociation. This is liberation. You still feel everything. You just stop being possessed by it. And in that clarity, you begin to see the world not as it is, but as you are. Now imagine this. You are in an argument with someone you love. The emotion is intense. The pain is sharp. The words are fast. But suddenly, in the middle of it, you become aware. You notice your anger. You see your defensiveness. You hear the story in your mind repeating, "They don't care about me." And in that moment of observation, everything slows down. You see that the thought is not truth, it's a narrative. You see that the emotion is not them, it's your reaction. And in that space, you have a choice. Not a reaction, but a conscious response. That single moment of observation can save a relationship, dissolve a trauma, and rewrite a lifetime of conditioning. Can you see the power in that? And the observer effect doesn't stop at emotion. It touches the very fabric of reality. Have you ever noticed how your energy shifts a room? How your belief in someone affects how they show up? How your attention to your body changes how it heals? This is not magic. It's quantum intention. What you place your awareness on, you influence, not with effort, but with presence. When you observe with love, you empower. When you observe with fear, you distort. The world is not happening to you, it's responding to you. And the quality of your attention is the frequency you're broadcasting into the field of creation. Now let's go deeper. Beneath your thoughts and emotions, there is a core belief system, mostly unconscious, that filters your entire reality. It decides what you're worthy of, what you're afraid of, what you expect from people, from life, from yourself. And the only way to change those beliefs is to see them, not with your intellect, but with your being. When you observe a belief like "I'm not enough," without trying to fix it, without running from it, without identifying with it, you begin to unravel it. The belief loses power when it's brought into the light of awareness. You don't need to fight it. You just need to witness it fully. And slowly, the energy that fed it begins to return to you. This is why the observer effect changes everything. Because it's not about doing, it's about being. It's not about control, it's about clarity. And clarity is power. When you're clear, you don't need to force outcomes. You don't need to manipulate people or prove your worth. Your presence becomes magnetic. Your energy becomes coherent. And the universe begins to reflect your inner state with uncanny precision. This is not just spiritual insight, it's energetic law. You are not a victim of reality. You are a participant in its creation. But here is the ultimate secret. The observer is not personal. It is not your ego watching your thoughts. It is not your mind analyzing your emotions. The true observer is beyond identity. It is the infinite awareness that existed before you were born and will remain after you die. It is the silent presence beneath all experiences. And when you rest in that, even for a moment, you taste freedom. Not the freedom of getting what you want, but the freedom of not needing anything to be different. Can you imagine that kind of peace? Let's return to your breath now. Just feel it. Don't try to control it. Just observe. And notice, what is it that's aware of the breath? Can you find that? Can you find the place in you that is simply watching, without judgment, without resistance? That place is not a thought. It is not a feeling. It is the ground of your being. And from that ground, your entire reality begins to shift, not because the world has changed, but because you have. So we must ask, what are you observing right now that is shaping your life unconsciously? What are you refusing to look at? What stories are you still believing without examination? These questions are not philosophical, they are transformational. Because the moment you turn your attention inward with honesty, with presence, with love, you begin to rewrite the very fabric of your existence. Observation is not passive. It is creation. It is healing. It is awakening. This is why the observer effect changes everything. Now that we've stepped into the mystery of observation, we begin to recognize how deep this truth runs, not just in the mind, not just in emotions, but down to the atomic level of our lives. You start to see that everything you've been looking for, peace, freedom, love, was never outside of you. It was waiting in the space between your thoughts, in the quiet watcher that sees but does not grasp. The moment you truly observe your experience, without clinging, without resisting, you begin to dissolve the illusion that you are separate from life. And that is the moment the observer becomes not just an idea, but a living presence within you. It's no longer something you do, it's something you are. Have you noticed how your life shifts when you begin to simply notice your patterns instead of judging them? The way a habit begins to lose its grip the moment you witness it from a place of stillness. This is the magic of attention. Not attention laced with control or criticism, but pure attention, clean, curious, expansive. We often believe that change comes from effort, from willpower. But true transformation begins with awareness. When you bring awareness to a wound, it begins to heal. When you bring awareness to a lie, it begins to crumble. And when you bring awareness to your own awareness, something miraculous occurs. You wake up. This is why ancient mystics and modern quantum physicists are speaking the same language with different words. The mystic says, know thyself. The physicist says, the observer influences the observed. Both are pointing to the same fundamental truth. Consciousness is not just aware of reality, it is entangled with it. Your perception is not neutral. It shapes everything it touches. Your gaze carries intention. Your attention carries vibration. And that vibration ripples out into the field of reality, returning to you as experience. You are not separate from the universe. You are the lens through which the universe sees itself. Now pause. Ask yourself, what am I creating through the way I see the world? Through the way I see others? Through the way I see myself? This is not about positivity or affirmations. This is about radical honesty. If you observe yourself with shame, your life will mirror back shame. If you observe others with suspicion, you will find reasons to distrust. But if you begin to observe with compassion, with spaciousness, with presence, then life begins to soften. People begin to open, and most importantly, your own heart begins to unfold. Let's take this deeper. The observer effect is not only about changing what you see, it's about changing what you are. Because the more you observe from awareness, the less you identify with the content of your mind. You are no longer the anger, you are the field in which anger arises. You are no longer the fear, you are the spaciousness that holds the fear. And then, a strange thing happens. The emotions begin to pass more quickly. The stories begin to unravel. You stop clinging. You stop resisting. And you begin to flow. Life becomes a dance, not a struggle. And you realize that all this time, you were trying to fix what only needed to be seen. That's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to change what's happening and instead observe it with full presence, it begins to change on its own. Not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned with the intelligence of awareness. There is a deeper wisdom guiding you beneath your preferences, beneath your fears. But you must be still enough to hear it. You must observe with such clarity that the noise of the mind begins to fade and the voice of the soul begins to rise. This is where the true spiritual journey begins, not in acquiring more, but in seeing more clearly. Not in doing more, but in being more fully. You begin to notice the subtle layers of your own consciousness, the way a single thought can trigger an entire identity, the way a single memory can hijack your nervous system. And you begin to unhook, not by force, but by seeing, pure seeing. Seeing without trying to fix, seeing without trying to escape, just being with what is, exactly as it is. And in that radical acceptance, you find freedom not because things are perfect, but because you are no longer a prisoner of your mind. Let's return to the breath again, not to control it, but to observe it. Just watch the inhale, watch the exhale, and ask yourself, who is watching? Can you find that observer? Can you rest in it? That observer is not your personality. It's not your past. It's not your ambition. It is the timeless presence that has been with you in every moment, waiting patiently for you to remember. And when you truly rest as the observer, you begin to see that nothing was ever separate. That the breath, the thought, the sensation, the sound, they are all movements within the same field. And then something even deeper emerges. You begin to observe the observer. You become aware of awareness itself. This is the highest form of meditation, not focus, not effort, not visualization, but pure recognition. The moment you realize that awareness is aware of itself, you enter the domain of the infinite. You touch the groundless ground, the silence before creation. And in that space, you are free. Free from roles, free from time, free from the illusion of form. You are not someone observing, you are observation itself. But even here, the mind may try to claim the experience. It will say, I had a glimpse, I reached it. I know now. Be careful. The ego loves to steal awakening and wear it like a badge. But true observation has no need for identity. It is beyond the one who claims to know. So when you find yourself grasping for spiritual significance, pause. Observe the grasping. Observe the need, and let it dissolve in the fire of presence. This is the purification. Not in renouncing the world, but in seeing through its illusions. And now we ask, if your observation creates your reality, what kind of reality are you committed to creating? Not through force, but through attention. Where is your awareness flowing? What are you feeding with each moment of attention? Are you observing the pain of the past or the possibility of the present? Are you watching your fears, or are you watching the watcher? This is the subtle art of creation, not through action alone, but through observation in alignment with truth. The observer effect changes everything because it returns power to its rightful source within you. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the portal through which consciousness enters the world. Every moment, You're casting your gaze into reality, and reality is echoing back your state of being. This is not a metaphor. It is the very structure of existence. And once you see this, once you know this not just in theory, but in your cells, you will never again sleepwalk through life. You will become lucid in the dream of form, awake within the illusion, still and silent, yet infinitely alive. You are not here to fix the world. You are here to see it clearly. And in that clarity, your very presence becomes a healing force. Not because you do anything special, but because you are something rare, a being who sees, who feels, who knows without clinging. A being who lives from the power of observation, not manipulation, from presence, not performance. And in a world addicted to reaction, your stillness becomes revolutionary. So I ask you now, more deeply than ever, what is it you are truly observing in this moment? And who is the one observing? Let the silence answer. When you begin to live from the place of the observer, the world takes on a different texture. Everything appears sharper, more alive, more interconnected. You see the subtle threads between cause and effect, thought and emotion, belief and behavior. You no longer move through life blindly reacting, you respond with clarity and intention. And even when you forget, even when you fall back into old patterns, you remember faster. Because now you've tasted something real. You've glimpsed the still point within you that watches without judgment. And once awakened, it never truly sleeps again. It waits patiently, like a clear sky behind passing clouds, knowing that your return is inevitable. As you deepen into this awareness, you begin to recognize that most of your suffering wasn't caused by what happened, but by how you perceived it. Your attention was fused with the story. You believed the thoughts that passed through your mind. You took emotions to be facts. But with the observer awake, you begin to recognize the difference between what appears and what is. A thought says, "I'm not worthy," and you say, "Ah, there's that old voice again." An emotion rises like a wave, and you breathe through it, knowing it will pass. You no longer drown in your experience, you float above it, anchored in the stillness of awareness. This doesn't mean you become detached or cold. Quite the opposite. You begin to feel more deeply, love more freely, and weep more honestly. Because you're no longer afraid of your inner world. You're no longer running from discomfort. And observation brings intimacy. It strips away the filters. You see others not through the lens of projection, but through presence. You see their pain without absorbing it. You see their beauty without needing to possess it. Your relationships transform no longer based on roles or expectations, but on truth. And the greatest truth is always found in the space between words, in the silent knowing that we are all one awareness looking through different eyes. With this shift, your outer world begins to reflect your inner state. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with a deeper rhythm. Synchronicities increase. Opportunities appear. Challenges no longer feel like punishments, they become invitations to observe even more deeply. You begin to understand that the universe is not chaotic, it's conscious. It's not random, it's responsive. And you are not separate from it, you are a node of awareness within the infinite field. Every act of observation is a ripple in the hologram. Every moment of presence is a restructuring of the matrix. When you sit in stillness, The entire cosmos recalibrates around your vibration. But this doesn't mean life becomes easy. In fact, the more awake you become, the more sensitive you become. You feel the suffering of others more acutely. You see through the games of the ego more clearly. You witness your own shadows with greater intensity. But now, you have the capacity to hold it all. You don't collapse under the weight of the world, you witness it, embrace it, and from that embrace, transformation occurs. You become a space where healing happens. Not because you fix anyone, but because you see them as they are, without needing them to change. And that kind of seeing is rare. It's sacred. It's divine. Let's bring this even closer. Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding that for just one day, you would observe everything without judgment. Your thoughts, your emotions, the way the light hits the wall, the sounds around you, the people you interact with. You wouldn't label anything good or bad. You would simply notice. Do you see how that would change your day? How it would slow you down, soften your reactions, and open your heart. This is not a practice reserved for monks or mystics. It is available to you right now in this breath. You don't need to retreat to a mountain. You need only to return to the witness within. And in that return, you begin to see something extraordinary. The observer is not separate from the observed. This is the deepest layer of the observer effect. At first, it seems like there is you and the thing you're watching. But as your awareness deepens, the boundary dissolves. You are not watching your thoughts, you are the space in which thoughts arise. You are not observing the world, you are the consciousness through which the world appears. The seer and the seen are one. This is the collapse of duality, the end of separation. And from this realization, a profound peace arises. A peace that does not depend on circumstances because it is not of this world. This is not escapism. This is embodiment. You are fully here, fully alive, but no longer bound by false identities. You know you are not the body, but you honor the body. You know you are not the mind, but you respect the mind. You know you are not your story, but you carry it with grace. And in this balanced state, you become a bridge between worlds. Heaven and earth meet in your awareness. Spirit and matter dance in your breath. You are both infinite and human, both the wave and the ocean. And you walk through life with open eyes, open hands, and an open heart. But be warned, the ego will try to reclaim the observer. It will say, "Look how aware I am. Look how enlightened I've become." Don't fall for it. The true observer claims nothing. It needs no recognition. It does not seek status. It simply is. When you find yourself using your awareness to feel superior, pause. Observe that too. Let even your spiritual pride be held in the light of consciousness. This is the final purification, when even the idea of being awake is seen and released. What's left is not a person who has awakened. What's left is awakening itself, flowing through a human form. And so we return to the beginning. The breath, the silence, the awareness behind your eyes. It has always been here. It has never left. You may have forgotten, but it never did. It watched as you searched, as you suffered, as you succeeded, as you failed. It waited patiently for you to remember. And now you have. Even if just a glimpse. Even if just for a moment. That glimpse is enough. It plants a seed in your soul that will bloom in time. You don't need to force it. You don't need to chase it. You only need to observe. So ask yourself now, not with the mind, but with the heart, who am I when I am simply aware? Who am I when I do not cling to any identity, any thought, any emotion? Who am I when I just observe? Let that question echo in your being. Let it become your mantra. Let it guide you back, again and again, to the stillness that never moves, to the silence that never ends, to the light that never dims. You are not the storm, you are the sky. You are not the noise, you are the awareness in which all sound arises. You are not the moment, you are the timeless now in which all moments unfold. This is why the observer effect changes everything. Because it changes you, and when you change, the world reflects it. You don't have to believe this. You only have to look. Look with presence. Look with honesty. Look without needing anything to be different. And everything will change.